Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, India's largest digital first platform where we give entrepreneurs like yourselves the opportunity to connect with some of India's biggest minds across themes and topics. The whole of this month, we're going to continue focusing on the pandemic and what really being thrown up as a way of opportunities by way of challenges and how you should be preparing for the way forward. Today, we're focusing on the opportunities that have been presented by the pandemic, how you can tap into those opportunities, how really you should continue innovating, all of that being discussed in the masterclass. I'm in conversation with some of India's biggest expert voices. Let me quickly introduce them. First up, Vineet Agarwal, President, ASSOCHAM and MD, Transport Corporation of India; Narendra Yadav, Vice President at Paytm; Rehan Yar Khan, Founder and Managing Partner, Oreos Venture Partners. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. And on behalf of all of us, you're doing great work when it comes to just what is happening around us, responding very quickly to everything that's happening and the challenges being posed by the pandemic. And a lot of critical areas being covered here by this panel. I want to start with you, Rehan. If you could talk to us about the work that Mission Oxygen is doing, just give us a brief sense of where the idea of that came about, what the work that is being done as we speak.
So thanks for that. Mission Oxygen started on the 23rd of April. Some of our founders and other founders from our portfolio companies got together, and it all started by one of them actually wanting to make a donation, and then they found they had nowhere to donate to, right? Because there was no way to get this oxygen. Then they realized that they have to import these oxygen concentrators from China. So they got a whole lot of the other friends together and roped in some of us, and Mission Oxygen was born literally on that weekend. And 1 week later, we had landed our first consignment from China of oxygen concentrators. That was on the 30th of April. And since then, every 48 hours, Mission Oxygen has been landing a consignment. And this is all through donations, right? So, all kinds of people have donated, famous people from Sachin Tendulkar to, all kinds of people have been donating 500 and 1,000 rupees. And they've collected, upwards of 45 crores through this method. Since then, we have switched to building oxygen plants. We've actually commissioned 2 plants in 2 hospitals, one in Hyderabad and one in Chennai. And we have another 40 plants now under commission, and hopefully should go live within a week, including 8 for the army and hospitals all across the country. So we believe this is the best way to bridge the oxygen gap. So that is what is happening in there in a nutshell.
Let me get opening comments from our other panelists as well. Narendra, Rehan is doing work, and his organization and his team is doing work as far as oxygen is concerned. You're doing that. You're also doing work and innovation around another very critical area, which is vaccines. Just give us a sense, how you decided that this is where we're going to, throw our might behind. How did it come about so quickly? How did you launch the service?
What is it that Paytm can do for the society? One obvious choice was that we need to arrange oxygen concentrators and set up oxygen plant. Second was that we need to use our platform to disseminate relevant information to people as much as possible, because information was needed by people that when do they need hospitalization, what should they do if they test positive, they should not panic, and a number of other things from resources from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, etc. And third important thing, which is the ultimate protection against this crisis, that is vaccination. So when government opened up its APIs for booking vaccines, etc. So Paytm, without wasting any time, launched this feature on its app, through which till now 15 lakh users have registered on that mini app. They are getting notifications as soon as there is any slot that is available. They are able to use Paytm app to book the slot, and this has been this feature, interestingly, is being used by people in 700 over 700 districts. So it has been very important and relevant feature.
I do want to come and talk to you, Vineet, about the fact that, while you wear the ASSOCHAM hat, I want to talk to you about what you've seen as far as supply chain is concerned and the kind of innovation, because that really has ensured that a lot of critical businesses, a lot of critical industries are not facing any kind of a crunch. And, that it, to whatever extent possible, it's continued to be business as usual. How have you as a company, how have you as an industry really ensured that?
Things that also we have done in the organization as a whole. One is that we set up a task force of several of our members who are engaged in various activities, health-related activities and otherwise. And we actually made a very detailed list of recommendations from what needs to be done from the oxygen perspective, from even things like gene sequencing, from supplies, every single thing, including vaccination, to the Honorable Prime Minister, to the Cabinet, etc., a few weeks ago. And we're happy to see that some of those things are getting implemented. Of course, things are taking their own time because the crisis is very, very, very large. And this is one of the ways we also made recommendations to the Honorable Reserve Bank of India also to share in terms of economic things that need to be done. Simultaneously, as the supply chain industry is very clearly and directly responsible for movement of all of those concentrators or oxygen, etc., that has been going on across the country. So, for example, you've seen the oxygen tankers coming on on rail, because the movement, see, India produces oxygen at certain locations, but the need for the oxygen has been at different locations. So moving that filled capacity to these locations fastest is either by rail or by road, and the empty tankers have been flying out by the Indian Air Force as well. So that is happening on ground. The distribution of these concentrators to small towns, to the village level, etc., has been happening. And then the medical supplies, availability of vaccines through a cold chain system, again, that has been very robust. So the supply chain industry is at the forefront of actually delivering these the current challenges right now.
Sure. Our questions have started to come in from our audience members. Our first question coming to us from Azhar Mohammed. He's saying it's, organizations like Paytm, Mission Oxygen, etc., are able to offer their services free of cost. As an entrepreneur, though, how do I ensure that I am making money and I'm pricing my product right, even as I'm innovating during a time like the crisis? And I assume he's talking about the fact that, you don't want to come across as someone who's maybe, making a profit of what has been an incredibly difficult time. But as an entrepreneur, you're doing business for profit. So how do you perhaps balance the two? Open to everyone on this panel. Vineet, maybe if you could take this on first.
All companies are doing their own bit in there, and companies and I guess individuals can also do their own bit, either contribute somewhere or be associated with somewhere. I can tell you there are people who reached out and done such amazing things at this point in time. There are people who ferried food. There are people who've distributed oxygen and done a lot of things. So if I may understand, the question is that how can I be also involved? I think every person can be involved in some way or the other. Associate with the right organizations. The important thing is that, because we've also heard the other side of the story of people doing very wrong things at this time, using the pandemic to their advantage. So I think aligning with the right organizations is very important at this point.
Okay. Rehan, Narendra, do you also want to perhaps take this question on?
I just want to say one thing that this is an unprecedented crisis.
Yeah.
It is not possible for one individual or one organization to do everything. Mm-hmm. So here, what is the thing that becomes most important is that multiple people who want to do something should come together and do whatever they can. For example, a company that has got a lot of reach among consumers, they can maybe disseminate information. A company that is working in logistics, maybe they can partner with someone who is trying to arrange supplies. I'll just give two small examples. There's an organization that is trying to distribute medicines to needy. They reached out to Paytm that can Paytm collect demand for them. So now we have hosted them on our app so that people can request medicines and this organization will be able to deliver it there. So I think coming together, making a team is very, very important and very effective in these.
Our second question coming to us from M. Anand. He says he is the proprietor at Anand and Company, which is infrastructure, which is into civil infrastructure. His question is, he says, a lot of businesses can work from home. But what about businesses like us? He's in the real estate space. How do we ensure that we can continue working from home, continue seeing innovation really in industries like us? Anyone on this panel wants to respond to that? And I do have a question on the use of technology, and not every industry at this point, when you're talking to a small business, has effectively moved to becoming, digital first. What then happens to those businesses? Open to everyone in today's panel.
Yeah, so we are frontline workers. I come from a logistics industry, transportation industry, where we have to go to the front line. We have to be there on the ground. We cannot work from home. So it's only some kinds of jobs that can work from home in our industry, but most of the jobs have to be on the field. So we completely empathize with you, and but you have to, and as we have done also across the country, build the confidence in people with our frontline workers by either getting them vaccinated or ensuring that the safety standards are maintained wherever and whenever they go to our customers, or to even things like loading trucks in our e-commerce warehouses. We are managing the facility. So I think absolutely right. There are certain things even at senior level. At some point, you have to come together, not work from home, but come together to really be creative, really get insights into how to grow the business. Otherwise, not everything can work from home.
Gentlemen, I have to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. Today, we're talking about opportunities during the pandemic. What are the opportunities for entrepreneurs like yourselves, and how you should prepare for those and for the way forward? Let's quickly listen. I want to take a step back and really talk about the big picture, the how of innovation, the why of innovation, and the when of innovation. Rehan, to you first, and I will come to everyone else on today's masterclass as well. You said something interesting that celebrities are coming together. They're asking for they're putting out their personal examples. They're asking for help, support, etc. for the mission that you are representing. Based on that, and given that you work so closely with small businesses, what perhaps sets apart a business that's highly innovative from one that is not? 2 or 3 things that you think hold companies in good stead that you would like to talk about today.
Innovation is the lifeblood of businesses. The world changes every 6 months, especially nowadays, right? With all the technology and all the forces around us. And I think if you are a company, or you're a team, or a founder, or a CEO, and you are not innovating, you're not constantly tweaking your model, coming up with new things, expanding your product range, what we call the LTV in our business, you are stagnant and you run the risk of falling behind. I'll give you a great example here, is that you see time and again that in incumbent areas where there are large players, new people, right? They come and they disrupt it. Like, you have Paytm over here, which has come in a way disrupting the banks, because, the payments used to be the domain of the banks and lending used to be the domain of the banks, and all these fintech companies have come up and they've tried disrupting these incumbents. And the reason is because the incumbents are unable to move to the new models. Right? And through this innovation, they've managed to do that. So that innovation is extremely important. You have to constantly keep doing it. You have to play to your strengths and you have to build upon that. I'll give you another example here. We just spoke about Mission Oxygen. And what was Mission Oxygen's strengths? We were not the largest NGO or the largest trust or the largest foundation out there. These were just a bunch of startup founders, literally kids, that came together, but their strength was that they could move with speed, right? So they figured, okay, we won't do the largest quantity of these, but we will be the fastest to get them here. And then by that time, the bigger NGOs and organizations will sort of take over and they'll bring in their, concentrators in the tens of thousands. And they managed to do that. And then they moved on to the next thing. They wanted to be the fastest to be able to set up the plants and get that going. And they open source that knowledge of how to do that. And everybody else is, sort of learning from that and doing that. So you have to play to your strengths. And I think one of the biggest strengths, and I know a lot of your panel, a lot of your viewers here are entrepreneurs. I think one of the strengths here is that you can move quickly. You don't have the baggage of a lot of legacy software and systems and processes. You can use that to innovate and create new markets and build new things.
Vineet, wearing your ASSOCHAM hat, would you like to respond to what Rehan said? Fast and speed, two words that he used. Do you think those are essential if you want to be a company that is innovating? What role does perhaps having large pockets or deep pockets really play when it comes to innovation? How about the role of the ecosystem? What would you like to say?
Innovation is absolutely the critical factor in this pandemic right now, as we have seen that companies that are dynamic in their thinking and are able to pivot quickly and also take actions right away are companies that are not just succeeding but also growing in because of the pandemic or during the pandemic, and they will continue to do that in the future. And it's not necessary to have big pockets. I think it's more important to have the thinking, the will. And I think, there's a saying that I remember JFK who said that too often we enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. That which means that we just take somebody else's opinion and we go with it. And we read that and we go ahead with it, but not put in the thought and the effort that is needed. And that's what creates innovation. That is what creates the differentiation between any company that is, today's leader can tomorrow be far behind because if you're not moving ahead with that speed.
Our next question coming to us from Subhash Ganguly. He says he's a professor at NIT Raipur. This is a question to both Narendra as well as to Rehan. How do you coordinate this kind of teamwork and effort? Because it's on a pan-India scale. It's on a global scale sometimes. What lessons would you, or what advice would you like to give, Narendra, to you first?
What is important is to understand that what are the strengths of the organization. In the case of Paytm, we were able to identify people with different kinds of skill sets. We identified people who will be able to source supplies from various countries. On the other hand, we identified people who will be able to work on applications like Vaccine Finder app. We identified people who will be able to work on a lot of content, who will be able to find out doctors, create videos, disseminate that information to public. So what we did was in two parts. One is, what are the various things that we want to do? And that got decided based on what is the need of the market. And when I say market, it means what is the need of the hour, what does our people need at this point in time. Once that is identified, identifying resources from across the company to do those kind of things. And then accepting wherever we do not have that particular skill set. And they're reaching out to people. We reached out to government, we reached out to various other foundations and built a team. And this is how we were able to coordinate. Here, the crux of the question was that how do we coordinate? I think, by defining ownership very clearly and by having people who are actually interested in doing this work selflessly, that was very important for us.
Rehan, what would you like to tell Professor Ganguly? He's saying, what insights can you offer us about how this model works?
Right. So the one thing I want to add to what Narendra said is that, listen, this thing where you create silos and you have, various groups heading up various functions, that is a very done management practice. But I think the one very important thing that comes above that is cultural fit. And what we found, in Mission Oxygen, right, is that they got together founders who were very like-minded and they could work with very quickly, right? And that's what allowed them to move at such speed. So I think and a lot of people will tell you cultural fit trumps any kind of organization and process that you may create, because then everything just works so much better with each other. It's a symphony. So I think that's what I wanted to add. That when you want to work at this kind of lightning speed, or maybe even otherwise, you're building a fast-growing startup. You need to get people of great cultural fit to make things happen, and then you can have all the other organizational stuff below it. Software to coordinate, silos, passionate people, and so on and so forth. But I think this is the one thing on top. And this really worked. And I saw this work in this SOS situation with Mission Oxygen.
Okay, that was part one of our Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass on opportunities during the COVID pandemic. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. If you want to know what is coming up on our further masterclasses, all of that information is coming up on the screens as we speak on our website. Also, what do we have lined up on part 2 of the special masterclass? That's coming up as well. Now, so wrap. Thanks for watching. Solutions which are offered to small town India, to Bharat, be very different than what is being offered at this point to tier 1 and tier 2 towns and cities?
In the rural India, the basic needs are that they will like to consult a doctor. Can doctors be made available?
Yes, for sure. There are 250 districts in the country where things are very, very bad in terms of the all these factors, roti, kapda, makan, electricity, transport, and broadband. But certainly in other places, and if you go by population density per district basis, lot of these places already have started to get internet.
The SOS, began actually in Delhi. That's where the oxygen supply was, the shortage was the strongest. Organizations started responding to that. Then it spread to other parts. We started getting a lot of calls from South India. Now the situation appears to be is that the cities, right, at least the major cities, seem to have stabilized in terms of supply. And now the SOS calls are coming more from villages.
Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, India's largest digital-first platform, where we give entrepreneurs like yourself the opportunity to be front and center on a national platform, connecting with experts, asking them your questions and voicing your opinion. Today, we're talking about the opportunities which have been presented during the COVID crisis for small businesses like yourself. I'm in conversation with a very exciting panel of experts. Let me dive right in and introduce them. This is part 2 of them. First up, Vineet Agarwal, President, ASSOCHAM and MD, Transport Corporation of India. Narendra Yadav, Vice President at Paytm. Rehan Yar Khan, Founder and Managing Partner, Oreos Venture Partners. you don't want to come across as someone who's maybe making a profit of what has been an incredibly difficult time. But as an entrepreneur, you're doing business to for profit. So how do you perhaps balance the two?
All companies are doing their own bit in there, and companies and I guess individuals can also do their own bit, either contribute somewhere or be associated with somewhere. uh, I can tell you there are people who reached out and done such amazing things at this point in time.
How are things that are working outside of the metros, that kind of innovation, those businesses, are they very different from what we're seeing in tier one, tier two in urban India?
I can just tell you that yes, some of the needs are different, but some of the needs are also the same.
Yeah.
There used to be this whole old adage of roti, kapda, makan, and then at some point in time, transport got added to it. Roti, kapda, makan, transport, and electricity got added to it. And now the word that has got added to it is broadband, because without that internet connection, even at the village level, you cannot do much, which includes if it is education for your children, because schools are shut. Whether you want to get the right crop prices or the weather situation as an agriculturist, or even at some point procure something. So there is the element of broadband and those needs are also increasing quite a lot. And yes, for sure, there are 250 districts in the country where things are very, very bad in terms of the all these factors: roti, kapda, makan, electricity, transport, and broadband. But certainly in other places, and if you go by population density per district basis, lot of these places already have started to get internet. So as we progress and the mobile infrastructure improves, some of these things, common factors, are going to start playing out more and more and really get more benefits in the future.
Rehan, do you also want to respond?
I'm not sure if the questioner meant COVID related or generally, so I'll just answer both.
Sure.
See, the situation with the COVID relief at the moment is that the SOS began actually in Delhi. That's where the oxygen supply was, the shortage was the strongest. Organizations started responding to that. Then it spread to other parts. We started getting a lot of calls from South India. Now the situation appears to be is that the cities, right, at least the major cities, seem to have stabilized in terms of supply. And now the SOS calls are coming more from villages, right? We started getting calls from Uttarakhand villages and places like that, and Madhya Pradesh. And the last 3-4 days have been very intense from those areas. I mean, do we have a perfect answer? Does anybody have a perfect answer right now? I don't think we know what exactly needs to be done at the village level, which is different from the city level. I mean, we didn't know what had to be done at the city level when all this started on 23rd of April. We are literally, building this plane as we are falling off the cliff and trying to fly. So it's a tough one, right? We're learning as we go along and we're trying to figure it out. And if the questioner meant what is generally happening, in terms of technology reaching the small towns of India. So, what has happened is internet penetration and payments and KYC and, a lot of these frameworks, transportation and delivery and all these things have reached very deep into India now. They've reached tier 3, tier 4, rural, and so on and so forth. So suddenly that entire market has become addressable from a technology standpoint. And we at the firm in Orias, we call this market the next India market, right? All these people which are now addressable in terms of, building products and services for them. And that is already, started in a very large way. You have I'm sure you've heard of companies like Meesho, which have started addressing that bottom of the pyramid. Paytm has been a big pioneer in that area. Getting all the people who were not, who didn't have cards and stuff, an electronic payment method, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, we have a company in our portfolio which provides cattle trading between farmers and other kind of peer-to-peer activity between farmers. And the numbers have grown very quickly. The company started in August and they're already doing $200 million in annual GMV. Right, in the rural area, just for farmers. So I think yes, a lot of products and services are being built for that segment.
Interesting question coming to us from RJ D'Souza. He says he's principal at Yenapoya. I hope I'm getting the pronunciation of that right. Institute of Technology. His question is upskilling and engaging technical graduates in the new normal, given the poor employment rates and us possibly staring at jobless growth. Open to all three of you. We are definitely talking about a new normal. Whether we have a third wave or not, the way we do work has definitely changed. What are you perhaps, as individuals doing to upskill yourselves, and based on that, your advice for today's entrepreneurs? Or as organizations, what are you seeing and what are you perhaps doing when it comes to upskilling, reskilling, and identify what are going to be the solutions?
Not just the government, but even corporations also realize that. And it is, there are areas that will require a lot of people, not just from a perspective of where the industries are heading. So for example, if there is e-commerce growth that is increasing or the omni-channel growth that is increasing, we will need a lot more people to service that kind of markets. If, we need to clean up the environment. So there is I would believe millions of people required to do that as an opportunity. And clearly, as if one has to reorient themselves for the current normal or the future that is there, you have to unlearn. You have to, whatever you were doing, you have to think about things differently and get yourself oriented with maybe new courses, and lots of them are available, so that you're ready for the future, because it is changing, and it is, as Rehan also just mentioned, every 6 months is a new world in many ways. Certainly, there is a lot of opportunity, but yes, also fought with challenges.
I just want to make a quick reference to the latest CMIE report, which says that unemployment in India has started going up since April, touching 8.6% versus 6.7% in just a 2-week time frame. We're talking to entrepreneurs, many of whom have perhaps, laid off, been forced to lay off manpower, many of whom perhaps have taken, huge losses and huge hits to their businesses. He's saying the issue of manpower shortage not visible, but it is a weak link. Is Assocham doing anything proactively that Vineet can discuss? Open to all three of you, but Vineet, would you want to answer this question?
Yes, skilling is a big part of what we are doing as well. And for example, in the textile sector, we are doing a lot of skilling for women who can come back to the workforce, or even younger women. So at various districts, work is happening, and similarly in many other areas as well. So clearly, skilling is one of the ways to really start reorienting people for the new job markets. And certainly services sector is really hurting right now. The contact services, hospitality, tourism, some of these areas are really, really hurting. So I think there would be some time lag before this comes back. But yes, we are in a pandemic, and it is a deep crisis.
Okay. Rehan, Narendra, do you want to address this issue of manpower and upskilling and the jobless growth that we're staring at, which is going to be a really huge concern for entrepreneurs for FY22?
So maybe I can add from from Paytm perspective. When this crisis happened, this happened last year. This is happening again now. So there are, Paytm is into multiple lines of businesses. There is always one or two businesses that are, which are highly impacted. For example, our movies business or the travel business. These are the businesses that will be impacted a lot. So what we have done is, and I'm not saying that this is applicable on all companies, all startups, but just sharing our experience. So what we have done is that we have kind of, and whenever these are the businesses, whenever a business is impacted, there's a lot of anxiety among employees who were involved in that particular vertical. What am I doing? What should I do? Etc. Etc. So there we have been able to redeploy these people in other businesses. We have been able to come up with certain things that we have not been able to do in regular course of business. If we have to automate certain functions, I mean, we are using this time to redeploy people from functions that are impacted to things that will help us reap benefits in the future.
Yeah.
Instead of any major reaction. That is one part. Second is that in the times of crisis, employers' responsibility increases manifold towards its employees, because it is ultimately the employees because of whom the organization exists.
Yes, Rehan, go ahead, please.
See, the matter of skilling and reskilling is a very long-term one. To change your skill or to change your profession is to make a very long-term decision towards it, right? See, this pandemic, as grave as it sounds, is actually a very short-term thing. In 6 months, this is all going to be over, right? By January 2022, 99%, we're going to be back to as close to normal as things were, right? And the only reason you had the second wave is because, we went and we unlocked without vaccinating people. See, the lockdown was holding down the spread of infection. So if you open things up, naturally the infection will respread. I don't know if it's a second wave or it's a third wave or whatever. It's just the spread of infection that was held back by the lockdown. And now that the vaccination program is, getting into gear and getting into full swing, states are being allowed to order their own vaccines, and it's getting decentralized. I think, very quickly people will get vaccinated. And our estimate, at least at our firm, is that by January 2022, this is all going to be over. So don't make any reskilling decisions, based on something so short term, because, it's a career change. The thing that you should be conscious of, however, is that the world is becoming more and more tech as we go along, right? Everything is being rewritten by tech. So if you do want to make any long-term decisions, you need to crystal ball gaze into the future a bit. And at least our crystal ball gazing says that, go towards tech, right? And tech-based industries, and skill yourself towards that. That's where the future opportunities of the next, decade or 2 decades are going to lie. That would be my advice to the question.
Gentlemen, I have to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. Today, we're talking about opportunities during the pandemic. What are the opportunities for entrepreneurs like yourselves, and how you should prepare for those and for the way forward? Let's quickly listen. What perhaps are the sectors, industries, businesses that you think are going to be the ones that last? And in the mid to short term, where do you really think an entrepreneur who's logged in today, perhaps looking at pivoting, should be focusing their energies on?
There are certain industries which are clearly getting affected, right? Things like offline retail will be, affected going forward. A lot of offline, in-person activity that one did, going to movies. If you look at the US, for example, the movie industry has been struggling, well, not because of Netflix, but because of gaming, right? Entertainment is shifting in that direction. Old school banks are being rewritten by the new fintech companies. The model is changing towards asset-light ownership. I mean, it's just a very long list, to talk about on this program. But these are certainly the industries of the future. things which are being redone by tech.
We are down to the last couple of minutes on today's masterclass. We will have the time to squeeze in just a few more questions before I take closing comments. We need for an entrepreneur who's pivoted, perhaps in the manufacturing space, has started manufacturing, say, PPEs, sanitizers, etc. How do you ensure that you, in the long term, then are able to continue to remain sustainable if you've pivoted in the short term to respond to the opportunities presented by the pandemic?
Relevance for me this depends upon the market scenario, as well as how you are viewing that market scenario in a dynamic manner. So it is clearly very, very obvious that all organizations, any company, any startup, any organization, any space needs to be very, very aware of what's happening. And I think as individuals, when we are running our businesses, we are so caught up with the day-to-day, we sometimes cannot look beyond that. It would be good for any organization, even if it's a small company, any type of organization, MSME, create maybe a small group of advisors for your firm, maybe 3 people, 2 people, or 4 people. Those are people who are constantly looking out as to what's happening. They are your well-wishers. They are your people who are guiding you. Simple things like this, and I've seen that you can have a transformative impact whenever the market is changing. You're able to pivot again if need be, or grow the space you're in more dynamically. So it is that sense of awareness, and building that sense of awareness with a core team, with a core group of people. Advisors is important. The other thing that I must mention over here is having trust in your own people, the people that you are hiring and you are working with. Trust is a very, very important factor that gives you that confidence to grow, and also the people who are working with you will get that confidence to work with you better.
So let's quickly move on and take in one more question coming to us again, this time from Professor Ganguly at NIT Raipur. He's sending us a second question asking about student entrepreneurs. He wants to know how they can utilize their skill sets in this pandemic. What are the opportunities? What are the skill sets they should be looking at? Because they're, of course, going to be coming out into the workforce only in the next, say, 2 to 3 to 4 years. So anything specific you'd want them to keep in mind?
Whenever there are crisis situation, they're the people who win are the people with a lot of conviction, lot of passion. And sometimes in these times, the value of expertise, the value of being very senior in a particular area may not be as much as someone with a lot of passion and conviction that a person can bring. So especially for student entrepreneurs, maybe this is the time. Society is facing multiple challenges. There are multiple industries that are going to emerge, that are going to grow. It is their time. They should launch themselves.
We are just 2 months into this present fiscal. So my question to you is, personally, professionally, what lessons have you perhaps learned from the first wave of the pandemic, from the second wave of the pandemic, God forbid if there's a third wave, that you're going to look at implementing? And through today's masterclass, your advice for our entrepreneurs who've logged in, what would you like to leave them with? Vineet, if I could maybe come to you on this first.
I think the first wave has taught us that we need to be positive, for sure. You have to be positive in terms of the outlook that you have. You have to be also dynamic and build resilience around whatever you're doing. Now, not just your business, but your own mental frame of mind, because that is going to be something that is going to carry forward. And as we are seeing and we are observing that things are going to get better only. So I would like to also end with a specific quote again by Nelson Mandela, who said that may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fear. Because we are all right now are very fearful of what's happening. We are worried and scared, but we have to be hopeful. We have to look at the next few months as after this challenges as great opportunities for our country. So I'm very, very positive on the frame of mind that we need to have.
Thank you so much for reminding us of that quote, Vineet. We definitely could all do with some hope and positivity. Rehan, let me come to you for your closing comments.
The lessons of the pandemic have been a few. One is that in order to survive, you have to cut costs, especially fixed costs, right? For businesses, and that's the only way to survive. But one of the lessons has been that those who were able to cut their fixed costs survived and went through. The other lesson was that founders that were very resilient and innovated did very well. We've had companies that have beaten their targets by 40% right through the pandemic every month. All right, and that's just because they innovated, they started doing new things.
All right, Rehan, thanks for that. Narendra, I want to give you the last word. Personally, professionally, what have been your biggest learnings and your advice for our entrepreneurs today?
So professionally, what Rehan mentioned as his first point is actually the most important point for a business. These are the times to conserve cash. We need to cut down as many costs as possible, especially costs that are not yielding benefit. Leading to that is efficient use of resources that a company has. Second thing is that able to understand that how markets are changing during these times for every business is very, very, very important. Coming to a third thing, which is actually relevant personally as well, is that whenever there is a crisis, please seek help. And seeking help is applicable even when there is no crisis. There are so many people who are available to help. Many times people, either personally or even in their professional journey, are hesitant to ask for help. Asking for help it works.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and for answering all of the questions which have come to us. If you have any feedback for us, if you want to know what we're focusing on in our upcoming masterclasses, all of that information is on our website and on our screens as we speak. For all of you watching, stay home, stay safe. Thanks for watching and good night.